Looking at my 2018 F150 here, and it is rusted. It's an all aluminum truck, so it shouldn't be rusting. But if you look at the front bumper here, there are small little rust stains here. But keep in mind, this is not anything structural or anything. It's more just superficial rust from rock chips hitting the front bumper. And any vehicle would essentially have the same thing if it has a steel bumper up front, you know, superficial rust like that. An interesting thing about the F-150 is it's mostly all aluminum. I believe it has steel front bumper and a steel rear bumper, but it looks to be a steel front bumper considering there's wherever the paint's chipped off from rocks. I travel high speeds on the way to work. There seems to be small little rust spots popping up wherever there has been a rock chip, which is really interesting because, you know, looking at your vehicle long term, having most of the panels being aluminum adds a lot of value in my opinion. You have aluminum fenders, aluminum doors, and your bed's aluminum. Interestingly enough, the cab corners are actually popped on and they're plastic, and that's a huge thing. I know trucks, as they get old, cab corners is a huge spot where they just rot out for whatever reason. Looking at the truck, there's a couple scratches and dings. This happened when my wife was backing out of the driveway, and it's a scratch basically going down to the metal, and it's been exposed throughout the winter, and it's been exposed now for a couple of months, and it's just not rusting. If it were steel, this would potentially be like a full-blown rust bubble at this point, but it's just not causing an issue. I don't know what happened here or who hit my truck or what, maybe it was a parking lot or something, but it scratched through the paint, through the primer, and down to the metal, and that's been like that for over a year, and it's not corroding, it's not expanding or anything. It's just interesting to see how it doesn't really rust. I think, you know, in 10 or 15 years, these trucks are going to be some of the longest lasting trucks. And it's one of the things, it's like, you could always replace your engine, your transmission. Not that there's anything wrong with the EcoBoost or whatever engine you get in the F-150. They all seem to be pretty reliable. You can always improve the value of your vehicle, I think. If you're, you know, if you had to do an engine swap or something like that, at least you know you have a newer engine or a newer drivetrain or whatever. You're almost adding, you know, in a sense, you're adding value. But having body work and rust on your vehicle, say if you had a quarter panel rot out or something like that, you're losing tons of value in that vehicle once it starts rotting, once the cab or anything like that starts rotting. It's not worth fixing. And it's always, you know, something to think about. If you ever needed an engine, at least you can walk away saying, I have a brand new engine. And it's to think that these cabs could last longer without rusting out is a huge advantage. It's going to be interesting to see over the next 10 to 15 years how these cabs hold up. And I'm willing to bet that they hold up a lot better than the competition, being that they're all aluminum. And I think that if you were to purchase one of these vehicles, it would be a good investment in a sense that 10 years down the road, this might be one of the vehicles that holds more of its value, just because it's not something that's going to rot out. Vehicles nowadays, brake lines have to be essentially rust proof. I think a lot of the important lines that would contribute to the stopping of the vehicle or motion of the vehicle have to be somewhat weatherproof. But brake lines, for sure, after a few years ago, they made it a law where brake lines can't rust. So that was one of the things, you know, that would cause someone to potentially buy a new vehicle. But nowadays, having a vehicle that can't rust, that costs this much, keep in mind a vehicle like this is well over $60,000. And if you were going to purchase one of these, to know that there's a lot less chances for it to just rot away, it's a huge advantage. That is why I think the F-Series trucks and their SUVs, Ford's SUVs, are some of the best vehicles money can buy right now. Anyway, if you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel. I post F-150 content, F-Series content. I got a Super Duty as well. Thank you for watching, and hope to hear from you in the comment section.